We all face these huge decisions, right? A career change, a big investment, a new business strategy, and we have to make the call with, let's be honest, incomplete information. The future is always a little fuzzy. But what if the whole way we're trained to think about these choices is just wrong? Let's get into it and explore a much smarter way to make decisions when you just can't predict what's coming next.
Okay, this cartoon just nails the problem perfectly. You've got a statistician who drowned in a river that was, on average, only 3 feet deep. His math was correct, but that average completely hid the fact that there was a 10-foot deep section. And that's not just a funny drawing, it's a perfect metaphor for a huge thinking trap that we all fall into, all the time.
So, the first big obstacle we need to clear is something called the outcome trap. It's this mental shortcut that completely torpedoes our ability to learn from our own experiences. Why? Because we end up judging our choices based on how they turned out, not on how well we actually made them in the first place.
Decision scientist and, get this, former world champion poker player Annie Duke has a great name for this. She calls it resulting bias. It's that automatic, gut-level reaction to connect a good result with a brilliant decision and a bad result with a terrible one. But you know the problem here, right? As anyone who's ever played a game of chance knows, luck plays a massive role.
And this is what makes resulting bias so dangerous. You could make a really thoughtful, well-researched decision that just gets hit with a string of bad luck, and you'll kick yourself for making a bad choice. At the same time, some other person could make a completely reckless, uninformed bet that pays off, and everyone calls them a genius. That's no way to learn or get better.
So let's circle back to our poor drowning statistician for a second. He fell for a really specific and incredibly common mistake that grows out of this same kind of fuzzy thinking. It's called the flaw of averages, and believe me, it's a trap that can wreck everything from huge business projects to your own personal retirement plan.
So here's the big idea behind the flaw of averages. The real world isn't smooth and predictable. It's messy. It's full of volatility, wild swings, and stuff you just don't see coming. When we make a plan based on a single average number, we're basically planning for a future that will almost certainly never happen.
And what's wild is that this is not a new problem. The Roman scholar Pliny the Elder said this almost 2,000 years ago. Uncertainty has always been a part of life. The difference, and this is a huge difference, is that today we have these incredibly powerful tools to actually manage that uncertainty. We just have to learn how to use them.
So here's the bottom line. That single average number smooths over all the important details, all the peaks and all the valleys. Think about saving for retirement. You might plug in an average annual return for your investments, but the actual up and down sequence of those returns makes a world of difference. A couple of bad years at the wrong time can completely derail your plan, even if the long-term average looks fantastic.
And this slide shows you exactly what I mean. Look at the left. That's a retirement plan using a nice, smooth, average return of 14%. Looks amazing, doesn't it? Now look at the right. This portfolio has the exact same average return, but it includes the real-world ups and downs of the market. And the result? It's shocking. The money is completely gone in just over a decade. That is the flaw of averages, right there in action.
All right, so if we can't trust outcomes, and we definitely can't trust averages, what are we supposed to do? Well, the solution starts with a huge shift in mindset. It's a framework Andy Duke calls thinking in bets, and it's all about embracing uncertainty and focusing on the one thing you can actually control.
This, right here, is the big shift. We have to stop obsessing over the final score, which, as we've seen, is always a mix of skill and luck. Instead, we need to get relentless about focusing on the quality of our decision-making process. Now, a great process isn't going to guarantee a win every single time, but over the long run, it absolutely tilts the odds in your favor.
So what does a good process even look like? Well, it means you've done your homework, you've gathered the info. It means you've thought seriously about the risks, like what could actually sink this thing. It means you've looked at other options, not just the one you're already in love with. And maybe the most important part, it means being humble enough to admit that you don't have a crystal ball. You have to acknowledge the uncertainty.
Okay, here's a really practical habit you can start using today. Stop making single-point predictions. Seriously. Instead of saying, this project will cost exactly $100,000, try thinking in ranges. Acknowledge the uncertainty by saying it will probably cost somewhere between $80,000 and $150,000. It seems like a small change, but it forces you to build a much more realistic, more robust plan that won't fall apart at the first surprise. Thinking in ranges is a great start, but how do we actually deal with all that uncertainty in a practical way? Well,
It turns out we have this incredible tool that was basically invented to destroy the flaw of averages. It's called a Monte Carlo simulation.
Here's an easy way to think about it. Instead of trying to guess the one single future, a Monte Carlo simulation is like letting a computer live out thousands or even millions of possible futures. You just give the computer a range of possibilities for all your unknowns, and it runs through all the different combinations to show you the full spectrum of what could actually happen.
And this thing has a pretty cool history, actually. It was invented back in the 1940s by scientists working on the Manhattan Project. They had these massively complex problems they couldn't solve with normal math. So they developed this new method and gave it the code name Monte Carlo, after the famous casino, because the whole technique is built on chance and probability. Pretty clever, right?
So how does this actually work in practice? It's really just 4 simple steps. First, you list out all the things you're not sure about. Future sales, material costs, whatever. Second, for each of those variables, you give the computer a realistic range of what could happen, not just one average number. Third, you hit go, and the computer runs the scenario thousands of times, picking random values from your ranges for each run. And then finally, you get to see the whole picture of what might happen.
So what you get back isn't one single, probably wrong answer. Instead, you get this rich, detailed map of all the possible outcomes. You can see what's most likely to happen, sure, but you can also see the absolute best case and worst case scenarios, and crucially, how likely each of them is. It allows you to actually see and understand the risks you're taking on.
Okay, so let's put this all together. If we want to make smarter choices when the future's a big question mark, we have to ditch these flawed mental habits and start embracing a new way of thinking, a way that's backed up by some seriously powerful modern tools.
At the end of the day, here's the most important takeaway. The goal is not to become a perfect fortune teller. That's impossible. The goal is to build and trust a better process. When you focus on how you make your decisions instead of just what happens in the end, you put the odds firmly on your side.
So I want to leave you with one final question to really think about. Look at your life right now, whether it's your retirement, a project at work, a personal goal. What's one really important plan you have that's currently built on the shaky foundation of a single, simple average?